Earnestly podcast. It's here with Joshua Pressman Jacobs. Josh, I just realized that we are basically doing the podcast 1 year later. I think 1 day off from exactly the date we did it last year.
You are absolutely right, sir.
Yeah.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah. We published this last episode we did last year, August 4th. That's when we published it. Because we did it on August 3rd, that night. Right now we're doing August 2nd.
Yep, August.
Today's August 2nd right now, and will be published August probably tonight or tomorrow morning. But hey, Josh, what's up? How's your summer going?
It's going, man. It's been really busy this summer. I do not feel quite as relaxed as I did last summer, and it's really hard to believe that it's been just about a year.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that coming out of COVID, especially coming out of the pandemic, I think you feel busier. I mean, I can't believe we're still 3 years removed from that whole thing. It's crazy.
You're not kidding. When I think about what I was doing 3 years, me and a few friends formed a book club 3 years ago.
Oh, really?
Like the height of the pandemic, and I didn't get through all the books, but I literally was tallying it. We went through like 17 books in a span of like 14 months. You look at me like that's crazy. And
no, sorry, I'm that's on my computer. Just go, keep going.
we literally just brought back the book club, and we just discussed our first book. We'll get into the book a little later. I was telling you about it before.
You know what's so funny though? I've always wanted to do a book club on this podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I've always thought about the idea of doing a book club, but I don't know if I can be dedicated to it because I got so much things going on that I don't know if I can dedicate myself.
I think what's cool about you and the book club that you would do, I know it would be sports oriented. I love
but that's the thing. Well, we only sports though. I actually want to expand on that.
Well, some stuff is like really great. You know what I mean? There's some books I want to read that really cross over. Like one of my favorite books ever is Moneyball, and that's really a business book hidden behind a sports book.
I saw the movie in theaters years ago.
Yeah, me too. But the book is so different. Like when people say I love the movie,
nerds, dude.
It's just incredible. But the thing is, like, before I came on the podcast with you, I know you want to discuss the Knicks. Look what I just got. I can't wait to read this thing.
Is that Chris Herring's book?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what a prick I am. So I remember, as I'm talking about books and book clubs, all that. I remember summer of 2014, I went on a book binge where I actually bought a bunch of like old books, like NBA related or sports related books. And I remember saying, I'm gonna finish these books. This is my summer reading. I'm gonna finish these books, and I think I might have finished one of those books, of the four, or the five rather, that I got.
What were the other four? What were the books?
I know one was David Halberstam's book, NBA book. I know one was the Jordan Rules that I rebought on the Jordan Rules. One was a Charles Barkley book. One was the Shaq book. I know I finished. I eventually finished some of those books down the road, but the goal was that summer to do that. I have a problem with starting things, not finishing them. I need to stop that.
Well, you got kids too.
Well, at the time I only had one kid, and at the time my kid was a year old. What's the excuse? Like he's at the time all he's doing is shitting. I'm
hot. I gotta turn on my fan. Give me 1 second.
No problem. As we do this live on podcast time, man. I gotta stop. Really stop doing that shit though. Seriously, guys. As we are here on the podcast, live on the show with Josh Jacobs. Yeah, I gotta. If I want to do a book club, I need to stick to it.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean.
It's okay. It's all right. I feel in time. No big deal. No.
I didn't mean to take a break so early. I was just like, I'm like already sweating.
My kid was at the time was a year old. Like, what I have to do? My wife was at home at the time, a stay-at-home mom at the time. So what am I gonna do? All my kids doing is sleeping and pooping, and eating.
It's a good point. I mean, it's true. I remember I had a friend say that to me. My daughter, how old is your son now?
My oldest son is 10 now.
Yeah, my oldest daughter is. I have two girls. You have two boys. My oldest daughter is 9, and I remember a friend said it to me straight up. He's like, "Yo, Josh, once your daughter starts crawling, your chill time's over."
Yep. And I got a 10-year-old and a 6-year-old now.
Yeah,
I did take him to the first concert last week though.
I saw that. What'd you take him to see?
Fall Out Boy.
How was that?
That was actually a good show. I really enjoyed it. I'm not necessarily the biggest Fall Out Boy. Well, I mean, I like some of their songs here and there, but I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of theirs. First of all, I like a little more heavier rock music than anything. But this is the thing. This is a litmus test because my wife and I are considering going to WrestleMania next year. I'm in
Oh,
Philadelphia with the entire family.
your wife
But
likes that.
well, not necessarily, but I do, and so my kids. So she gets into it because of us. She will watch with us once in a while, all the big events. But we don't know how our kids are gonna do with big crowds. So we say, you know what? They want to go to this concert really bad. So we're gonna, you know what we'll do? We're gonna have them go to this concert. We'll go to this concert as a family and see how they do. And they were fantastic. They stay up to most of the show. They were engaged, even through a 1 hour weather delay. They were fine. I was really
So,
impressed.
that was your trial run. So now you're gonna do WrestleMania.
But that's the goal. The goal is to go to WrestleMania next year. So
Have you been to WrestleMania before?
no, that's a bucket list for me, brother. Bucket list.
Oh my god. What is your favorite? I don't know if it's fair to limit it to one WrestleMania, so maybe I should say 3 or 5 favorite WrestleManias ever.
I got my favorite. I have a favorite WrestleMania, personal favorite.
Which one?
Five. That's Savage Hogan. Savage Hogan.
Really?
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was into WrestleMania. My 2 favorite and close third, WrestleMania 6. I thought you would pick 6 maybe.
No, I hated Warrior, and hold on. Now my wife's calling me. Hold on a second. You know what? I should have told her I was recording. What's up, babe? I'm recording. What's up? I'm sorry. I didn't just start like a minute ago. You're actually live on right now, live on the show. Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
There you go. What's up?
Nothing. I'm walking out to the car because I've got.
Feels kind of like a radio show now.
You got what?
For the boys. Remember I told you Michael's gonna bring me.
Oh, right. You did say that. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm walking out to the car.
Okay.
With them in the car, so I figured I'd call, but then I was like, I was probably recording.
Okay.
Then you didn't text me that you were recording.
Yeah, that's my bad. I should have said to me. Yeah. Hey, folks, she's yelling at me.
Happy wife, happy life.
That's correct. Happy wife. Josh just said happy wife, happy life. That's right. Yeah, you do. Come on. All right, honey. Anything else? No. Okay, I love you. All right, bye.
Smooth operator. So you hated Warrior.
Happy life, baby. And this stays on the podcast. This stays on the episode. I'm not taking this off at all.
I believe it. I guess you're not taking it off me turning on the fan either. The minor interruptions, hiccups. Not even 10 minutes in.
You said 6? 6?
Yeah, 6.
When Warrior beat Hogan?
Yeah.
Screw Warrior. I you know what's funny? I've always hated Warrior. I hated Warrior then, and then of course in hindsight, because he's a racist prick, hate him now. He's dead, obviously, but his movie was showing on Lifetime or A&E like in a loop forever. I saw it on Hulu last year. Yeah, like I felt like it was on rerun all the time. Yeah.
Okay, how about WrestleMania 8?
That was the one in the Hoosier Dome. That was no main event. That was Savage and Flair, and then Hogan and Sid.
Yeah, Sid Justice.
Yeah.
And then the infamous one, which I was too young to really have a memory of, but I remember just looking back. I think WrestleMania 8 was the first WrestleMania I watched.
Yeah.
And then just going back to the history, because I was huge on Hogan, was WrestleMania 6. But what do you think was the other one I'm thinking of that was just so classic? Prior to 8 and 6.
3.
Of course. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You pick 5. 5, like I feel like you're
you said what my favorite one is 5. The first one I ever watched was 3, because my cousin, who's 3 years older than me, I tell the story a lot on this podcast too, and I'll say it again here to you.
How old were you for 3?
I was 7. I was turning 7 that May.
And you were born in 1980.
Right.
I was 6.
Yeah, you're behind me.
3. So 4, 7.
So my cousin, who's 3 years older than me, he had a recorded tape in his VCR in his room, and he had it and it sat there every fucking day. Like sat there like out. Okay. And was labeled in bold letters WrestleMania 3. March 27th, I think it was, March 29th, 1987, on the whole thing. So one day I got bored. I was at the house and I said, you know what? I'm popping that bitch in. Boom. I started watching it, and then the addiction was born.
And you've watched every single WrestleMania since.
I have not really, actually. You know what's funny? I've watched pretty much not as entirely, because my wrestling fandom has gone through phases. I was a kid. I watched it as a kid. Stopped in my teenage years. Came back in '96 when Hogan went to WCW and NWO. Stayed around with Austin and Rock at the height of that, late '90s. Stopped in '02, and I didn't watch it 17 years until like 2019. And now I'm back
when your son got into it.
Well, a little bit of both, yeah. A little bit of both, yeah. It helps. I have a 10-year-old that was getting into it also on top of that, so
yeah,
to share a little passion of that.
I remember that when I was like 10, I got into wrestling, and my dad was like very encouraging of it. And then I got into basketball, and he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And, you know.
Oh, basketball. Once I got into basketball, wrestling suffered because basketball still.
Yeah, well, it wasn't WrestleMania and NBA All-Star Weekend usually the same weekend.
No. WrestleMania weekend is always the first week of April or late March.
Then what was it? There's some event that goes on the same weekend of All-Star
First week of baseball. First week of baseball. That's about it.
No.
Or maybe the Final Four. That's about it.
I don't remember. I'll have to go back.
And WrestleMania now is a 2-day event now. It's no longer 1 day. It's 2
it
days.
is really?
Yeah. It's a night 1 Saturday, night 2 Sunday. It's that big.
Yeah, I heard on Bill Simmons' podcast he was talking about going to WrestleMania with his son, and it was like a 10-hour event.
Yeah, WWE is killing it financially. Killing it.
Really?
They just released the quarterly report for the second quarter of the year earlier today.
Are they a public? Sick. Can you buy stocks?
They've been there since like 99, 2000. Yeah. Yeah, they're killing it, man. So, enough of wrestling talk. We got enough of that shit in this podcast. What you been doing, man? You were telling me you were doing something recently, some endeavor you were doing that you were telling me that you were.
Yeah, so I'll segue into it. I want you to. I want to show off my mug. I think this is an amazing mug. I got this.
For the folks on the audio version, this is a mug of him. Is that Barack Obama?
Yep, made in the
Barack
USA.
Obama, made in USA.
It's a picture of him smiling. Can you guess what's on the back of this mug?
Oh no! Don't want to know. His birth certificate.
I got this in the 2012 election. This was the swag. And I got 2 shirts.
RockAutomata.com. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know.
Did he sell that way?
Yeah, I got it. I donated $25 in the 2012 campaign.
That is fucking genius. That is fucking genius. Absolutely. And so anyway, you're saying.
Yeah, and then the other day, check this out. You know what I mean? I was amazed that this came out. And I'm a
the Sonics
fan. Hat. Yeah, and I'm just like, I gotta rock the Sonics.
Well, technically, they traded him to Seattle, Ewing to Seattle, Patrick Ewing to Seattle in '99. So technically,
maybe I'm rocking him then. So. Yeah, that was like his second to last year. I don't even know what he did there. That was completely forgotten. Do you know who actually was a beat writer for the Seattle Sonics that year?
Was it Kevin Pelton?
No, but it was someone that was interviewed by Matthew McQueenie.
Oh, no, hold on. Let me guess this. That's not Nunez Mousy, is it?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah, small world, huh? And I think what's his name? Dwayne Casey was assistant coach on that team at the time.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah, because Nunez Mousy is like friends with Dwayne Casey. So.
Yeah. And Nunez, the interview he did with David Stern is still one of the most wackiest ones I've ever heard.
Well, now that he's dead, yeah, absolutely.
Well, not only that, but like you can hear like in his house or his apartment like they're fidgeting with the air conditioner and stuff, and it's very authentic.
Oh, big time!
And that's the only show he did. He didn't do another podcast again.
No, he did another one. He did an interview like El Chapo.
Oh, okay, and that was it too.
Yeah, I know. He needed to bring it back, but he was like it's like a one-hit wonder right there.
Can I tell you that's as a podcaster who've been doing this stuff for 12 years, that's like a snob. I'm going to sound like one anyway. Like that's one of my biggest pet peeves of all time is people who get into this medium. I love it. People approach this medium and love it and try to embrace it, but they never stick with it. Like they'll do it, they'll start like a couple episodes, and then like go take like a whole year or two off. I don't get it.
So I guess you can't follow me because even though I flirted with it very heavily, I never even started.
Yeah, I remember Matt trying to get you to do it, and then you did it, and then like that was it.
I mean, I guess he published it for me. It was on his his format. I didn't even like that interview. I felt like it got dated like right afterwards, but that's a story for another day.
By the way, we're supposed to podcast soon. I know him and I spoke a couple weeks ago. We're supposed to get together soon. He's really busy.
Don't you remember the 3 of us were supposed to do a tripod?
I will still have to do that, man. I'm still with that, man. You give me a time and give time a day. He's the one that's the busy guy here. I
It is the busiest
podcast
guy.
normally, so yeah.
Well, you catch me in a good time because summertime. I'm a teacher, so I'm off.
Yeah, because after September starts, you're gone for another year, and we'll check back in August 2024.
Well, I mean, I can make time. It just requires a little bit more. But yeah. So you were asking me what I've been up to this summer. I visited Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia.
Oh.
I have to say Virginia right away because when I was telling people I was taking a trip to Williamsburg, everyone's like, "So you just going to Brooklyn? What's the big deal about that?" But this is the Great Triangle: Williamsburg, Jamestown, and Yorktown. Jamestown was the first settled colony.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredible. It was literally like summer camp for history teachers and just history nerds. It was like all New York City DOE teachers. And I was in a group with elementary school teachers and secondary ed, middle school and high school teachers. And we spent a week like pretty much like on a museum tour. It was incredible. Really incredible.
How long were you there for?
I was there literally. I showed up on a Sunday night. I was the only person that drove. I was in Pennsylvania at the time. I drove 6 hours down there, Southern Virginia. So it's 3 hours south of DC. And everyone else flew. And I drove down there, got there Sunday evening. And we went all the way until the following Saturday afternoon.
The whole week?
Yeah, and it was intense. Like we were doing stuff every day. Every day.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Yes, the very first documented. Oh, what the hell is her name now? Because the first day we went to Jamestown and we heard about the very first documented slave, and literally the guy who was giving the tour was saying like her name was just written there. And it's gonna come to me like in 10 minutes. I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, remember that first documented slave?
When we talk about another topic, and like, oh, by the way, I don't remember.
Exactly, but like it's just interesting because like you have to find these documents. Like how much stuff happened that's like not recorded, that's just like lost in the archives, and that's true for everything,
I agree. So you have that going on. You're still teaching, obviously, right?
Yeah, I'm still teaching.
So are you off for the summer?
Yeah, I'm not doing summer school. I don't typically do summer school.
That's good to get the whole 3 months off.
Yeah, I mean, the last day of school is June 28th. Go back after Labor Day weekend, but you kind of like you have to gear up in August. I'm actually in the process of moving too. Maybe that's part of the stress also.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I hate moving. I hate moving. I hate it. I hate it with a passion.
Yeah, it's something. It's but that's life,
Yeah, exactly.
Move on.
No, I totally get it. I totally get it. It's funny, like northern schools typically start schools after Labor Day. My kids start school next week. It's weird.
Well, that's most of the country outside the Northeast, and in a way that makes sense if you think about it. If you want to capitalize on the long days of sunlight, everybody should be off in summer break in June and July. The summer solstice is usually like around June 21st, 22nd.
Yeah.
Like by mid-September, it starts to get dark earlier, and we're going to hit daylight saving times in November. So the truth is you're maximizing your summer days in June and July. In August, the sun is setting earlier already.
By the way, I'm definitely minority in this, but the whole like getting dark earlier thing, call me masochist all you want. I love it. To me, I've always been a fan of it getting darker early, the better for me. Because to me as a child, it told me that, oh, great, the holidays are around the corner. So it was a thing for me, like that's my signal. I
the signal, like the Batman signal.
Yeah. Oh, things dark early. That means that Thanksgiving's around the corner, and then Christmas after that.
Well, what's it like being? How long have you lived in Florida for now?
34 years.
So since you were like 9 years old,
9,
like
how
do you identify seasonal changes though?
Well, it does get colder here. There are moments that it gets cold. Like you'll have like during the winter, we'll have at least like a couple of cold fronts around down here. There are moments we'll get weather in the 30s sometimes here now once in a while. Now,
in southern Florida, maybe Orlando.
Yes. No, here too, here in West Palm Beach. Yes. But it won't sustain. You'll get a couple days and they'll go away. But you'll get moments when it's like in the 30s. Absolutely.
How does that feel?
I love it. My wife loves it too. My wife hates Florida. She wants to get out of here so bad.
Where's she from?
She's from here. She's born here. That's why.
Move? She
hates it. She hates hot weather. She says she says that she was made for the cold weather.
Where was she? Where does she want to move?
What's live in New York or somewhere up north, like somewhere metropolitan.
What do you think of that?
It's
Isn't that
definitely a
right?
liberal, definitely a blue leaning state. I'll tell you that right now.
So somewhere like DC and out.
She's liberal, so she's definitely
How about you? Are you still a conservative?
Who's someone conservative? I'm a moderate, brother.
Oh yeah. I we'll get into
I have
Trump.
a Republican fucking ages, man.
You're right.
I can tell you Republicans, like, hey, I get it. You hate the liberals, hate libtards, cool. Why should I vote for you? Give me a policy that I should tag on that say, yes, I'll go on that. They still can't answer that question.
No, I got it. I didn't mean to.
My political journey is fluid.
No,
it's to evolve.
That's good. That's good. I mean, they you had me, but she wants to move up to New York, but you like Florida. That's what I'm saying. New York is so expensive.
I don't mind Florida, but again, I hate moving too, so I'm lazy.
Oh yeah. By the way, that first slave was named Angela.
Okay, see, back to me. Wasn't quite 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 10 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. But what do you think of how all these like insurance companies, these flood insurance companies, have a ban in Florida?
Freedom. I don't know, man. The state is a mess, man.
All the talk about freedom and last year you told me how you like Ron DeSantis. Tell me what
I'm done. Oh no. I told you that I thought he handled COVID well. I thought there were things he did in his first term as governor that were that I thought were good. He was pro teachers, of course. He was actually pro environment. In comparison to like the last guy, Rick Scott, we had here. I didn't vote for him in the governorship because of things I saw I didn't like.
He's term limited, right?
Huh?
Term limited, right?
No. He's running out second term.
But I'm saying he can't run after 2 terms. How many terms is he allowed to run in Florida?
Just do.
That's what I'm saying. So you're going to get rid of him soon.
Thank God.
Unless he becomes president, which seems incredibly unlikely.
That's not going to happen, dude.
You think it's more likely that Trump would be president again than him?
Absolutely. Well,
Trump's alternative seems like it's either jail for 561 years or a second term as president.
Dude, we are in a fucking. You want to go there now? You want to go there?
We might as well. We keep on talking on the edges of it, don't we?
Yeah, we'll talk about the race in a second. Third indictment for Donald John Trump yesterday, as is recording. Not surprised. You know what I find fascinating though, Josh, is that if you and I we follow this stuff. I mean, I'm sure you still follow it fairly decently. It's funny because like even with all this going on, the case that's actually the one that he should be worried about the most is still on the board. It hasn't even happened yet. It hasn't even been processed yet. The case in Georgia, that's the one you should be concerned about more than anything else.
They
and that's
this is the big.
And that's still pending. And that's still pending.
Need to unpack it, but they're saying this is huge.
Yeah, this is big.
Very limited in scope. Where it's
this is definitely huge. But I've heard that the one in Georgia is the one you should be worried about more than anything else of the 4.
Rudy Giuliani, he literally threw like kerosene on himself and set himself on fire for Trump.
Yeah, didn't he confess that he made some remarks?
That's what I hear. Trump is most concerned about people turning on him. It's hard. It's like a floodgate of things following you. The website I check on the most frequently to get this info, and it just gives me snippets, is politicalwire.com.
Okay.
It's a good website. It's a news aggregator.
So you know that guy that got indicted, the employee 2 days ago that got indicted?
The employee to what?
That got indicted, the Mar-a-Lago employee that got indicted 2 days ago?
Tell me about him.
I know him.
Has he been on your podcast?
No. He's a customer on my day job. He's a customer. I know him for 20.
Do you frequently share your day job on your podcast?
I try not to. I don't like.
Okay,
I don't.
I'll ask you offline about your.
Yeah,
day
that's
job
fine. That's fine.
stuff.
You can do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's a customer of my job. Not just any customer. He's a regular customer. I've dealt with him many times. He's a nice guy. He's actually a very nice guy. That's why when I saw him, I was like, oh shit, is that Carlos? Carlos de Oliveira. Yeah.
How old is
I know him. Probably like 50s, early 50s, maybe.
You're the man. Ernest is a man of many hats. You get along with everybody, though.
Yeah, well, dude, I don't live far from Mar-a-Lago. My job is literally 5 minutes from Mar-a-Lago.
Have you been there before?
No, ugly fucking place too. By the way, the color scheme is disgusting. Ugh.
Maybe they
I've always
changed
thought
it, you know.
I've always thought the color scheme was very 80s, 70s, 80s.
That's Donald Trump. That's when he came about. That's when he emerged.
Same guy that had a bedspread with a was it the roses and stuff on the bedspread? That's some weird little picture he had. I don't know, whatever. No, but I think the one in Georgia, the case in Georgia is the one you should be worried about the most because that of the four on optics right now from an outsider looks like the one that's open and shut because there's actual tape of him trying to find votes, asking the Secretary of State to find votes in Georgia. That one is
I mean,
a scary
there is so much evidence, and this is why I guess we will get into this. You were mentioned before we went online. I haven't written in a while, and you're right. There's various reasons. Just
Are you
like-
writing? Are you writing on this? Is this what you were touching on?
Well, I'm just curious because it, and I was talking to a friend about this, but like, what's up with your boy Joe Rogan, man?
Okay, what did he do now?
You didn't hear him? He said this was that it was kind of an inside job that guy Epps was involved in it, and the FBI helped put him up to it and stuff because they want to slam.
I've heard multiple sources talk about that also too in the past as well, not just Joe Rogan.
Okay, but it's like, why are you swimming in those waters? Like Trump literally 30 minutes before the insurrection says, I'm going to be marching right there with you. There's like mountains of evidence right there.
I feel like Rogan likes
agent.
I feel like Rogan likes to say things sometimes.
No, you know what? Someone had a theory. What they said was,
okay,
maybe I'm stepping on a piece I'm going to be writing.
No,
the theory is if you remember, Joe Rogan said a few weeks ago, I do not want to assist Donald Trump in his quest for re-election for president, to run for president again. I will never have him on my show. And if you actually watch the video from it, I forgot who was interviewed. The guy's like, oh, or maybe it's Lex Friedman. I don't know. He's like, oh, come on. You know, it's good for ratings. You want to have him on. It's interesting. And Joe Rogan's like, you really think so? And he seems like hedging. Like this might have been his like kind of like throwing, you know, throwing some feelers out to Trump saying, hey, look at you. I'm on your side. Come on. You know what I mean? It'd be good for my show. I'm already fabulously rich. Let me get richer.
It's weird because Rogan, like, he still professes to this day that he's a left-leaning guy. In fact, he's a Bernie Sanders left-leaning guy.
Well, he had Bernie Sanders on. I mean, that he's very good at professing that. But if you think about it, if you look closely, he does a lot of dog whistle politics to the conservatives.
And I feel like also too because a lot of his like base are guys or independent to right-leaning guys. I don't think a lot of liberals listen to Joe Rogan, honestly, as much as you think. I think if I had to ask you, who's more likely to Joe Rogan on a daily basis? Conservatives or liberals? I would say conservatives most likely.
Without a doubt. I mean,
so he's came to a base.
Some people say also. Like since he went to Spotify, it's like he's more insulated. I guess he could. I really don't know, but I started to see a pattern where he'd have like 3 right-wing people on in a row, and the next thing you know, he'll bring on Cornel West or Killer Mike. Like even in his improvisational style, that shit is planned. Like he literally plans, like, oh, who am I gonna have on next? To kind of
he doesn't. Well, in his defense, though, he does encourage. He does say that more right-leaning folks are willing to come to the show, which I always give conservative credit for this stuff. Is that they're always willing to go on another side than the liberals are to do on the conservative side, like on platforms. And I've always said that liberals should be a little open-minded about doing that because you know what? The only way people are going to understand what you're saying or understand you is you have to go to the enemy's den and actually explain things instead of being in your own silo.
Well, this is where, for example, I think you're a fan of Glenn Greenwald.
I know who he is, but I never got him to them.
Oh, you never got into him? Well, him, Matt Taibbi. I follow more closely than Greenwald. And Matt Taibbi has not been on MSNBC since like 2014, 2015. Right. I used to explain it like this because Matt Taibbi on 7, and for one thing, I think all the cable news is crap now. Like I like getting my info from all the podcasts, from reading stuff, different things. Like even your mainstream news publications better. You're better off reading the New York Times and getting stuff from MSNBC, Fox, CNN, anything. CNN what? I mean, sometimes these things, the website, the reading stuff is better. But Matt Taibbi, for example, before, I don't even know what it's like now because I don't follow him as closely either. Like, I read Matt Taibbi's book called Hate Inc., talking about how the media divides us and makes us hate each other. And he said, you should stop consuming as much media. You'll be happier. And I took his advice. But from taking his advice, I don't read him nearly as much either. So I'm plugged in, but he's
independent though. He's independent now. He's on Substack, and
he's one of the biggest Substack writers. But I'm saying before, like what happened was when he first had his divorce from MSNBC, it's right. Like on 7 out of 10 issues he's aligned with MSNBC, but on 3 out of the 10 issues he's not. And Fox is like, hey, come over here. We won't even talk about those 7 issues we disagree with you on. We'll just talk about those 3 issues that you agree with us. And they do a better job of kind of it's a harsh word to say, to exploit that, but they're more willing to ignore, and then maybe that's why they like Trump. They're more willing to ignore the downsides of somebody else as long as there's a couple things that they just that they're in alignment with. And there's almost like too much of a purity test with
most of liberal media. Unfortunately, I have to say, I'm not saying liberal. I mean liberal. Let me be clear about this. Mainstream liberal media, very snobbish, very standoffish. Holier than thou. Look at me. I'm gonna say what I say, like The View and MSNBC, CNN, and I watch them once in a while because they do have good people in there. I listen to once in a while, but they come up as very standoffish, and I totally understand why certain people are turned off by that. I totally get it.
Well, young people don't even watch that stuff. They do everything on TikTok now.
Well, that's actually a good thing though, because people watch Rogan and watch like how do your political media, like you mentioned your publication, you listen to, you follow that aggregate site. What podcasts are you into, politics wise?
What's funny is that and this I should probably write a post on this. The podcast I'm into now, I haven't really listened as much to politics podcasts anymore. Like I like more sports or entertainment podcasts. Like if Larry Wilmore has someone interesting, I'll talk to him. Or around the election season, I'll follow things more closely. 538. But I like Ezra Klein, even though a lot of his podcasts are behind a private feed. I like listening to his podcasts because he does a lot of sports, but he talks about politics and cancel culture with that. He's been very good. Of course, I enjoy Bill Simmons' podcast and everything. I mean, this is kind of a lull in the season, like basketball. Not much is going on.
So you don't do a lot of like political media like that on a daily basis. So
I used to listen to Ezra Klein quite a bit, but I don't like. It's just like the same story over and over. Like I wrote a story a few months ago about how Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon got laid off within the hours of each other. So I did some research, and it wasn't as close in time, but my memory of it from over 10 years ago was Keith Olbermann and Glenn Beck both got let go around the same time.
Oh, shit.
Glenn Beck was Fox. This was like 2010, 2011.
Yeah.
Keith Olbermann was MSNBC. And I'm like, oh, my God, history's repeating itself. It just recycles it. But, we're in our early 40s. People in their late 20s, early 30s that are just getting really deep into politics, they're not going to remember that. Like, you just keep on studying things over time. So that's why I want to make it more of a point. I'm trying to make it more of a point to, like, read, like, history of things. You know what I mean? Just seeing things like back in time, not just immediacy. Like even like my reading habits, I'm trying to develop more. Like, I'm getting like, other than this basketball book, this is the book I'm thumbing through right here. Our Linking.
Okay.
New perspectives on Linking and his world. I'm trying to learn more about like
Who wrote it?
Eric Foner is the editor, and I only read one section so far, but it's like a compilation of essays from different like famous U.S. historians of the Civil War.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's like I'm trying really more to develop the historian in me more. I mean, partially I'm a history teacher, but my background was science. But it's like I'm kind of tired of like these books that are just like the immediate hits. Something's really good. I remember I was telling you the other day, I read this book, utterly fascinating, Generations by Gene M. Twenge.
You sent it to me yesterday in a text,
Talks about the 5 generations living together now. You have the silence, which my mom's passed away. She was a silent. My dad's a silent, 1942. The last year of silence is 1944. Okay. So the boomers started in 45. I didn't realize this. But Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump, all born in 1945.
Interesting.
Joe Biden, born in 1942. He's the only silent president we've ever had.
Ooh.
Because prior to that was George
Reagan.
Bush Sr. The greatest, exactly. They don't talk about the greatest in this one. So you have the silent generation, the boomers. Obama was more of a late boomer. Some people say he had more elements of Generation X, just given how he lived, his lifestyle, living overseas, more multicultural. And then you have generation after the boomers, Generation X, and then you have millennials, then Generation Y, who are the kids I'm teaching, who, wow, like just learning about them. And then your son might actually be considered still Generation Y, because I think, no, maybe not. The first year of the Polars is 2012, I believe. Let me look.
2013 was when he was born.
Yes, the Polars is 2013 to 2029 projected. They still haven't figured out the Polars, but you know why they call them Polars?
Why?
One is the melting of the polar ice caps, and two is how polarized the world is now.
Wow.
I know that's nuts, right?
That second part hits different too, especially the second part.
That chapter was the shortest chapter. We're talking about Generation Y.
Well, that's information, of course.
These kids all grew up with iPads. Like 1995 was like the demarcation year where internet was in the majority of American households.
Right.
And 2007 was when the first iPhone came out. By 2011, over half of all Americans had an iPhone or some kind of smartphone. That's like nuts.
Yeah.
And you know what impacts the most? This probably will not surprise you. Is young girls.
Right.
Just trying to keep up, oh my God,
right, of course.
Instagram model, this and that. Like they didn't talk about it in the book, but I remember this. I thought it was interesting how I do want to ask you about TikTok, what you know about it, because I'm very.
But I know. Look, I don't.
You do TikTok?
So I have an account. I do have clips of my shows on that account, but I don't ever update it hardly. I wanted to make it a part of the show, of the promotion of the show, but I don't stay on top of it. I'm more a YouTube guy, honestly. I'm a YouTube guy.
I think YouTube's great too, but TikTok was banned in Montana. So anyway, to go back, so you have Generation Y, who is like this new generation of young people. They actually have a lot of angst, a lot of anxiety. Good reason to. The millennials population growth is really falling off millennials, and it's even falling off more with Gen Y. It's like people don't want kids, but the Gen Y are more activist minded, not because they have faith, but because they're so pessimistic about the world that they demand change. So Generation X, what's interesting about me and you is that they actually said you could almost put us in a subgroup from if you were born between 1979 and 83. You're an Xennial. You're like a hybrid between a Gen X and millennial. And that's kind of how I feel, to be honest with you.
I feel special now when you say that.
Yeah. No, it's true, though, because think about it. Because what they say is millennials are people that were born almost with excessive self-esteem. They were made to feel great. Like they want affirmation because they feel like they deserve it. Generation Y, the young kids now, a little bit older than our children, they need affirmation for reassurance. Like Gen X, my experience was, even though my parents raised me with self-esteem, if I did something wrong, they made me feel like shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So exactly, you know exactly what I'm saying. They didn't make you feel like you were God's gift to the world, did they?
Did you finish that book already?
I did.
I think I want to read that book now, man.
I mean, you could even skip around with the chapters, but it's fascinating. You could look her up, too. She did an interview with Jordan Peterson. I didn't read that one. I didn't even know about her. My friend recommended this book. And I'm like, I asked him then, I'm like, how'd you come up with it? He's like, I'm not such an avid reader. I just saw it and I was just curious. I wanted to learn about it. But like, it kind of blew me away. And it just talks about like things about like how to navigate. Like Generation X is almost the skipped over generation.
Yeah.
So like, because there's fewer Generation X in Congress than anybody else. Like millennials are the new supervisors and they're navigating how to hire new Gen Y employees. Because every subsequent generation has become more and more individualistic. Like you, sir, being a married man with 2 kids is becoming like a statistical rarity. Fewer and fewer people are married.
Yeah,
fewer people have kids.
I mean, look at the divorce rate. Of course,
there's still people that have kids but aren't married. Like I have kids.
Right,
I'm not
and
married.
look at the divorce rate. That's about too, also.
Yeah, I mean that kind of stabilized over time. The world is just like in a funny place. It's in flux. But in 1995, we got injected with more technology than human beings ever had.
We
Like,
did, but I feel like the last 10 to 15 years, the advancement of the technology feels so much like rapid.
yeah, look at it. We're talking on video now. The first time we did a podcast together, we were just talking on a phone.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy.
But
It's crazy how things change like
you
rapid.
have to listen to. We were talking about it last night, and I have about 15 minutes left in it, but it was so fascinating. Is Ethan Strauss and Freddie DeBoer's
Yeah, I gotta
podcast
subscribe to
episode.
this. I
It
tried
was
to
a
subscribe to his Substack, and I had a hard time getting the thing to work. I
Freddie
tried again.
DeBoer's.
No, Ethan Strauss is trying to get to pay for it, and I was trying
Oh,
to.
really?
I was trying to, and it's some of my Apple. I don't know what happened. I got to try it
No, you
again.
know what I notice sometimes? Like, there's sometimes where I notice some computers, my Substack doesn't work as well.
Right.
Which is really weird. Like, sometimes it's not as compatible.
Because he's having good conversations with people, but he had Bonnie Jones on his podcast
He did. That was
last
good.
week.
And then he wrote an article following up with it because apparently Complex dragged Bomani Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And Ethan Strauss came up for his defense, and I'm just like, that's kind of interesting. Because Ethan Strauss is very interesting because he is someone that really talks a lot about his concern with the perils of cancel culture and different kind of things.
Yeah.
And he'll even say it himself that he has his audience is 98% of the most diverse group of men you could ever come across.
Yeah.
Because he has like the most right-wing subscribers and some of the most left-wing. He said if he had $1 for every time that he had someone email him saying, I'm more liberal than probably most of your subscribers, but I still like your stuff. And he said that's like half my audience. You know what I mean? They think they're more liberal because he kind of presents himself in a way that I don't think he's
kind of contrarian though to some degree.
Yeah, he's more of a contrarian. I don't think he's conservative, but he makes himself very appealing to conservatives.
He's just a common sense guy, and I get what he's saying, Are
you familiar with Freddie DeBoer?
You know what's funny? So I saw him. I've heard some of his stuff. I've actually heard it before on Ethan Strauss's podcast on the ones that are free. Yeah. I think the early episodes of Freddie DeBoer when he's on there are actually free to listen to. However, I saw Freddie DeBoer actually last week on my favorite political show on Breaking Points last week.
Oh, that's former Hill Rising, right?
Yeah, was Rising. They moved to. They have their own thing now.
Breaking Points. So this is your favorite show? I have not since they've moved from Hill Rising. I haven't really.
I still watch Hill Rising too, though. But I watch a new crew. So I watch. I'm glad I mentioned that. So my political media consumption is Breaking Points, definitely. Saga and Crystal, who I love. Rising, of course, with the new crew they've had for the last year or two now.
Oh, really? So Rising didn't disappear; they just have a new crew.
No,
is Breaking Points? Is it a YouTube feed still?
Yeah,
I got.
And they're crushing it. They're crushing it right now. They're crushing it.
Yeah,
they got a million subscribers now as of last month.
Sagar was that was a great interview too. Sagar was on Ethan Strauss.
Was he really?
Like almost like a year ago. It was a really interesting interview.
Oh my god, I gotta check it out.
Yeah, it was great.
Because I watched Saga also on Andrew Schultz's podcast like a couple months ago too. Also,
you're a fan of Andrew Schultz's podcast?
Yeah, I am.
There's a dude I know that lives in Fairfield, Connecticut, who's like personal friends with Andrew Schultz. He's involved in like showbiz and comedy and stuff.
Yeah,
that's
cool. No,
I mean it's like it's only a few degrees of separation for everybody. Like Bomani Jones personally?
No, but I've been listening to Bomani Jones for.
But doesn't he live in Florida?
No. Well, he did for a little while. He did when he moved on to work at Levitard for a little while. But
go back. So your political media consumption,
right? So Breaking Points,
Hill
Rising. The guy that Crystal married recently, Kyle Kalinske.
Oh yeah. He sometimes is a guest on Joe Rogan.
Yeah, he was on the guest on Joe Rogan a couple months ago at the same time that Saga and Crystal were. I love his stuff. This is on a liberal, like there's a liberal media. Them, occasionally Young Turks, occasionally Dave Pacman. On the conservative side, I like Eric Erickson. You know what I mean? Like I said, Saga is my conservative, stuff. I like Saga. I like what I do like is I try to avoid. No, that's avoid. I don't like commentators who gaslight. I want people who are having good faith arguments. There are even conservatives who I agree or disagree with that are having good faith conversations.
Do you like Ben
Same.
Shapiro?
He's I used to stomach him. You know, he's a smart guy, but he's getting into his culture war shit now. He realizes that it sells, it pays his bills now, and to me, it's pathetic.
What about Bill Maher?
I love Lamar. I know people look at him as like, oh, he got red pill. No, it's not get red pill. Stop.
He didn't get
Okay.
red pill. The Democratic Party moved to the left. It's weird to think that Bill Maher and Michael Moore are like the old guys in the Democratic Party now. When they used to
Bill
be
Maher
like
is saying the same shit he was saying fucking 20 years ago. You changed. You guys changed.
He
Lamar
did change to some extent. There is still something to that, but it's true.
Bill Maher still hates Bill Maher. Oh, red pill.
You got to realize that
he still hates Donald Trump.
Ernest, we are like entering middle age now, so we're among the older people in America now.
I don't look it though.
Definitely not. But I just remember, like I said to my dad, it blew my mind. My dad, I said to him, he turned 80 last year. It's about to be 81.
Oh shit! Wow,
going strong. Yeah, well, he's
tough,
trying.
Man.
He's trying at least.
Tough.
Anyway, I remember I was saying to him about how I had a colleague at work who just turned 50. Was born in 72, and I said to him, "I'm like, Dad, can you believe that 50 used to be considered old, and now like people born 1972 and before 50 and older, like because to him he would think someone born in 72 is a
crazy.
Kid.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Like I looked at 40 back when I was a kid, like 43. Oh my god, that's older.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I heard my aunt
close.
and uncle were just saying how my cousin's 46, and I'm like, what?
It's all about perspective. It's all about your perspective at the time, and then all about how you look at the world.
So that's sort of like they might be the same, but it's like the world has shifted. That's why the book Generations talks about it. But
no, I'm gonna get that book.
Well, the thing is, the Generation Y in particular, they actually are more liberal about a lot of things when it comes to pot, gay marriage, abortion, obviously culture war. Do you know what the one issue that is still persistent? That seems like it never has broken the logjam. Like it's just there forever.
Is it trans stuff?
You know what's funny? Generation Y is more accepting because it's more individualistic. Like identifying as a man or woman is too much of a group thing. So it's like individual. Right. No, I just told you about our Lincoln. Why did he freaking die? Why was he killed?
Free the slaves.
Exactly. Racism is still the issue. This is where you have the most polarization still. So you have these young Republicans that are liberal in other areas, but when it comes to race, what Gene Twenge was showing is that white Democrats, white liberals under 30 believe that racism is still a problem. There's white privilege, and then white conservatives under 30 are like, it's all a bunch of bullshit. If anything, we're the oppressed ones. Like that's still like the major like sticking point. I know you're like, this is crazy.
That's
but
funny,
like some people say, I mean,
what I don't like is like white conservatives telling me that white privilege is not a thing when you literally have to open a history book and see how the structure. Again, people like me couldn't vote 60 years ago. Don't tell me that it exists. Now we can have a conversation about where we are now. I mean, have we gotten better and are we progressed? Absolutely. And I don't want to use it as a crutch. I'll use race as a crutch. But don't tell me that white privilege never existed because literally I cannot vote 60 years ago.
You're absolutely right.
I could not marry my wife 60 years ago.
You're absolutely
who's
right.
White. So stop. Open a history book. Ain't lying.
But they're trying to rewrite history books. They're banning the way history is meant to be taught in other places. They're saying this is a liberal agenda. This is to go back to what I learned in Colonial Williamsburg. It was very interesting. We had a featured speaker, and what she said is that people are getting upset that we're teaching the real history here. And she said there was a push for it in the early 90s. And there was an African-American woman that started talking about like the horrors of slavery. Like I'm sure you heard Ron DeSantis came up with some bullshit about the horrors of it. And this black woman literally had to get security because black people and white people both were like, yo, we're going to kill you. Stop causing problems.
Right.
And the white people made sense. And then a few minutes later, she broke down as to why the black people were upset at what she was talking about. you have any ideas why black people in Southern Virginia are getting upset at this black lady who's they consider a rabble rouser for speaking the truth about like what really happened in 1700s all the way through the Civil War, or even like afterwards Reconstruction, the whites and colored water fountains.
Crazy.
You
mentioned Ron DeSantis though. You mentioned Ron DeSantis. He is committing political suicide right now.
Oh well, we'll talk about it in a second. But why do you think black people are getting upset at this woman?
I don't know.
They were getting upset because they're like, yo, it's 1992, 93. We finally getting paid. We got good jobs now. We're finally getting along with white people. Why are you bringing up stuff to upset white people to remind them of all the bad things they did? They're going to be angry at us and push us down again. Stop making things worse for us. And I was like, oh, my God. This is what happens. People are saying, shut up. We don't want to talk about it. So this lady they thought was causing trouble.
Like I said, and that's my issue with a lot of people too. Also on the left side too, especially like we agree that those things did happen and they did exist. Let's use a crutch. Let's not act like we are in 1955 right now. We're not. We're not there anymore.
I mean,
okay. Again, we can vote. There's still ways to look. We agree there's still ways to go to full equality. But again, I couldn't vote 6 years ago. Okay. I also could not marry my wife 6 years ago. Okay. There's a lot of things I couldn't do in 1955 that I could do now.
And you are absolutely 100% right. But some people might say you're taking too moderate of a view. And the truth is that we can't stop until we make it right. Just because there's progress, is it right yet?
But the way to handle that is not to weaponize that and to make other people, especially other allies too, people who are otherwise, allies, feel bad about things that they weren't even involved in individually. Yes, make it a teachable moment, but don't use it as a crutch. That's the difference.
I understand.
And I will never ever change my stance on that.
Ever. I agree.
So I mean, and that's just it. I don't think that's a moderate stance. I think that's a common sense stance.
I got it.
Why should my wife, who's white, feel bad about something that she had nothing to do with in the 1800s? She wasn't even alive. Just saying. And she's an ally, crying out loud.
Absolutely.
So
she married a good guy and you.
Yeah, who can't stop coughing apparently because it's fucking cold and won't stop.
Really?
Yeah.
Right? Get yourself a lozenge or some water.
Yeah, I might be in a second. But I mentioned Ron DeSantis though, political suicide, because all this stuff about changing history and all this stuff, and I've been very upfront about on this podcast for the last couple of years about I'm not a Ron DeSantis fan, but I thought that he could have been a normal Republican. Once Trump lost in 2020, okay, let's see if he pivots off the Trump thing now and becomes a normal Republican.
Who's a normal Republican nowadays, though?
I mean, there are a few guys I do like.
Name one.
I think Will Hurd is interesting. I think Chris
Sununu. Will Hurd.
Well, I mean, I just learned about him a couple weeks ago, really.
But
recently.
My point is Will Hurd,
I got to see his political stances on
Will Hurd.
Things.
People are going to listen to this podcast and going to be like, wow, that's the first time I've ever heard Will Hurd. They're going to Google him.
Yeah. He's from president, actually.
Where's he from? He's a congressman from where? See, I don't even remember.
Texas.
Did you hear about that Texas congressman? He got his head slammed into the cement because he was trying to help a girl that was apparently having a seizure at some rodeo. It's a white guy, too. And the cops right away, when they figured out he's a congressman, they were like,
crazy.
Oh, my God, so sorry. Who's a doctor and stuff. And it's like, people were saying, like, the cops there just made the tension so high. Like, they made it bad. The EMTs came. Apparently, she was fine. But it was not.
Chris Sununu was the other one I was saying, too. I remember on this podcast a couple weeks ago when I was talking about, like, I had a thing where I said a Republican I actually do like.
Yeah, Chris Sununu. He's not running for president anymore. I have a friend who's actually a reporter in New Hampshire, and he summed it up like to me right there. He's like, Chris Sununu could be governor of New Hampshire as long as he wants. Everybody likes him except your most liberal people in New Hampshire.
Okay.
New Hampshire makes it. It's funny because I was reading something somewhere. It was talking about places that make it the easiest to vote and hardest to vote, and they rated New Hampshire as a hard place to vote. And I think the reason is because of absentee ballots. Like certain places, much easier to get absentee ballots. But this is where information is misleading because, for example, in New York, you have to register to vote weeks and weeks in advance. In New Hampshire, you could register to vote the same exact day. You just have to show up at the poll. You can change your party affiliation the same exact day. In the 2008 primary election, Obama shocked the world and won Iowa. And they were cocky. They were riding high. You know what a lot of people in New Hampshire did who loved Obama? They said, you know what? You got it. You'll be good. They decided to change their affiliation and they voted in the Republican primary so they could elevate John McCain because they wanted to have, as you were saying, a reasonable Republican. And Hillary Clinton won New Hampshire, and then it became this very tight race for a long time where Obama didn't get the nomination till much, much later. Some would say it served him well. It made him a better candidate. But still, like if he won New Hampshire right after Iowa, it would have been a wrap.
That's interesting. I never heard that story before, actually.
Yes, I mean, and some might argue that McCain isn't exactly a normal Republican either, but I guess it's
today in 2023, he's definitely a normal Republican.
There's my cat. You see it?
I love cats. What's your cat's name?
His name is Zillow. I've had him. He's 10 years old now.
I have 2 cats myself. I love cats.
Black cats are the nicest too.
Yeah, I got a mixed like black and like white and yellow cat. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, you're talking. Chris Sununu is the governor of a state of 2-3 million people. Will Hurd is the congressman. Like no one has the gravitas. This is where we're really.
Donald Trump owns that party lock, stock, and barrel. End of discussion. Okay, the fact that his numbers go up every time he's indicted. So look, he's winning the nomination because of that alone. Now, is his appeal in the general going to be? That's the story. And to me, that all depends on how Joe Biden looks by next year.
They're talking about this no labels party maybe emerging.
Oh God, let's not go there. That's a way to get Trump elected.
Exactly.
That's all bullshit. Fucking who was it? Joe Manchin.
Joe Lieberman is back.
Joe Lieberman.
There was someone else too they were talking about that was kind of prominent.
Joe Lieberman, my God, he's still alive. Jeez.
No, Political Wire gives some good analysis. This is a publication I actually do subscribe to at $50 a year. I think it's worth it, the insider analysis. And they were actually saying that the indictments are actually taking a toll on him more and more than you realize. It might not be with his hardcore base, but you are seeing more and more independents like turned off. Like, this country is like, it's like 8% of the population decides the election.
If you're a Democrat, that's a good thing. As long as you keep DeSantis away from the nomination and Trump wins the nomination and Trump is weakened going into the general election and Joe Biden can at least continue to sound somewhat coherent. Look, whether or not you like Joe Biden and whether or not you believe he's too old, I get all that. But you can't have both ways. It can't be Joe Biden, evil genius, also Joe Biden, dumb old guy who doesn't know anything.
Okay, what about Robert?
Pick your problem you have with Joe Biden.
Well, it's the same thing with everybody all the time. Well, what about you said you wanted to mention him? How about Robert F. Kennedy?
Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that guy. I'm glad. He's nuts, but Democrats. This is about problem with Democrats. Being elitist, being snobbish. This is a guy polling at near 20% of the party. I look, it's your party, so I don't care. I'm not a Democrat, so I don't care. However, it is a bad look that if a guy is in your party polling as high as he is, that he should at least have a voice.
That he's an anti-vaxxer.
Is he though? Is he though?
He said
no. Seriously, is he anti-vaxxer though? I know he got the vaccine. He got the vaccine.
Did he? I read something somewhere that said he said that COVID was created by the Jews and Asians. So
I saw that part. He's nuts. No one disagrees. Nuts. But again, free speech.
Joe Rogan wanted Robert F. Kennedy to debate Dr. Peter Hotez on his podcast. Peter Hotez was on Joe Rogan. This is where I'm sometimes conflicted.
With who?
And I don't listen to him nearly as much as I did. But I have what I mean conflicted with like Joe Rogan is because I've discovered people that I would have never discovered before. Like after the pandemic, the person I like to go to for my go-to information for COVID-19 and the pandemic is Dr. Michael Osterholm, and they call him Dr. Doom. He's one of the most foremost experts on like pandemics in the country out of University of Minnesota. Peter Hotez is out of University of Baylor in Texas, and he's another one as well. Like he's had some like really prominent people. I had a friend that said to me she thinks that Joe Rogan isn't his real name and that he is actually a outside agent of the government.
Joe Rogan?
Yes, that he helps disseminate information that the government wants to come out to give contrarian views.
I think your friend's thinking too much.
Well, did you ever see the movie Lord of War?
No, heard of it though, but
Lord of War, I have to rewatch it. I watched it years ago. That's with Nicolas Cage. And in the movie, he is an arms dealer where he sells weapons to third world countries. And maybe this is the hour mark. If people want to fast forward this, because to watch the movie, I don't want to give away, unless you're telling me not to give away.
I'll just do it, man.
Okay,
Please.
spoiler alert. He gets caught. It's a true story, mind you. He gets caught by the government agent. And he says, congratulations, they're going to give you a medal and a pat on the back. And you know what they're going to do to me? He's like, what? They're going to let me go free. He's like, because even though the government can employ me and they don't like me, and they claim that they want to catch me, the truth of the matter is that they need me because they want these countries to be war-torn because America is stronger. If these countries are in trouble, we can bail them out. I'm actually doing the government's work for them without even working for them.
Interesting.
Yeah, so maybe Joe Rogan's doing that too. You know, there's people inside of politics and stuff that want to downplay this Capitol insurrection and stuff. You know, so what my friend's saying, I'm starting to think maybe Joe Rogan really is an outside agent of the government, inseminating information. I mean, think about how quickly he backed off of vaccines. He gave this 10-minute lengthy apology and mentioned Dr. Osterholm and Peter Hotez saying, "I've had them on as well." Realizing I didn't realize how powerful my voice is and stuff. He was like told, he's like, yo, like, why did he apologize? Did he do that on his own volition? Or did someone tap him on the shoulder and be like, you took it too far. If you want to keep your perch in life, you better do this.
Joe Rogan is very, very polarizing. I agree.
Also, there was also another, and I saw this on a Reddit. There are people that follow Joe Rogan like word for word on Reddit. And I think he had Joey Diaz or something, and Joey Diaz mentioned something. Like some kind of conspiratorial thing. And Joe Rogan's like, hold on 1 second, I have to use the bathroom. 2 minutes later, he came back and pretended that conversation didn't even happen. You can look that up.
Oh, shit.
There's like a lot of weird stuff, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when my friend says, maybe it's not true, but you know, where there's smoke, there's fire.
I will say, look, all the shit Rogan gets, though, I will say, I always appreciate the fact that he has a diversity of people on his show. On both sides of the political, like whether or not it's no, look, for all the shit he takes, no one is doing what he's doing. At least, so not the
guy Schultz said that he's bigger than Johnny Carson now.
Oh yeah, at this point, yeah, why not? I mean, of course, digital media is where it's at now. Absolutely.
Yeah, he gets more viewers combined than Tucker Carlson and whoever else you can name.
Yeah.
Well, Tucker Carlson's not on anymore, but you get what I'm saying. He outpaced Tucker Carlson like crazy.
Well, Tucker Carlson is on Twitter or X now.
But yeah, Robert F. Kennedy is nuts.
He is nuts. The only thing I've ever defended of RFK Jr. is he should have a voice. His voice does matter, even though we disagree with it. That's all I'm saying. Because when you try to shut him down and not platform him, what you're doing really is giving people are questioning the media now. It's like, okay, so what are you hiding now? Now I want to look for him now, because the reason why I was able to disagree with RFK Jr. was because of the platform. By him going on Rogan, I was able to actually disagree with him on things without the media telling me.
Oh, you listened to that interview? How was that one?
Yeah, it was good. It was a lot of shit. I mean, it's hard. He's hard to listen to because his voice. He's hard to listen to.
I hear you. What do you think of Elon Musk owning Twitter, and how has the Twitter experience been for you since then?
Chaos. I mean, it's what it is for me. I just hate that. My only issue with X now is
that what it's called? I was saw on that emoji. I'm like, where's the bird? Why?
Dude, they changed the logo and everything. Yep, that's the name's called X.
It's no longer called Twitter.
No,
it's called X.
Yeah, watch. I'll show you my phone now. Hold on.
Why?
Watch. He decided to.
I gotta see this now. When did that happen too? Because I found it weird.
Last week, 2 weeks ago.
Just last week.
See the actor there, right in the middle.
Mine still shows Twitter.
Well, update your phone, and you'll.
Really?
Yep. See, watch.
So weird.
There's
Sometimes
X.
I look at Twitter on the computer and then it shows up as X.
There's X right there. Look, see over there.
But the thing is, what I notice too, though, is that whenever it shows notifications, I see like 25 notifications from the same 9 people. Like, what? I thought I'm following these other people. Why am I not getting the information?
Yeah, X is. Look, it's been chaotic. My only issue with him, really, only thing else is that I hate that there are people popping up on my timeline of people I don't follow. Why is Ron DeSantis? Well, I know why he's a presidential candidate. So obviously you're gonna see presidential candidates across the board.
Well, let's see
But
that
I
you're
don't.
from Florida.
That probably is too also. But you've seen people I don't because like even some liberal ones I don't follow, like conservative commentators who I don't follow, pop in my timeline. I don't follow you. Get off my fucking timeline. Don't jam these people on my timeline.
Well, I mean, some would argue that Twitter's gone to shit, especially for politics. But if you still follow sports like basketball, it still can be good. Even that,
Oh, of course.
that's hard to find. You know?
I complain about Twitter once in a while, but I'm not one of the ones that complain about like everybody else does. I still take for what it is. Like I have my friends on there and I talk about the things I talk about. That's it. You know.
It's very interesting to me how plugged in you are into politics because my experience of you is that your podcast has been predominantly sports.
Of course, it is.
But it's like you have me on, and like I'm your kind of like palate cleanser. We talk politics.
Well, I like having again this show, and you know this now. I've been doing this show 12 years.
That's incredible, man! Congratulations. How many episodes have you done? Have you compiled it all?
I lost count. I lost count, dude.
Can you go through it? Like,
I probably could, but it's got to be thousands and thousands.
That's incredible, dude.
Yeah.
You gotta promote yourself like that.
Yeah, I guess. You know, I enjoy it, man. But like, and as you know, this show started as a sports podcast only, and then again, this show has become something that's evolved into something that's not just about sports, but also about how I feel about life and about myself. It's become the life of me, pretty much.
But I want to go back to what you said about how you said you don't like people that do a podcast, a pet peeve, that do one or two and they just stop.
Yeah.
This you might find interesting. On the interview between Ethan Strauss and Freddie DeBoer,
okay,
they believe the barrier of entry for doing creative stuff has gotten so low, and anybody can do it now.
Yeah,
you know that you don't really need a skill set. Like you have done this for 12 years. Mm-hmm. I think that's my almost fear, inhibition from ever doing a podcast is that I don't want to deal with the growing pains of it, like sucking at first. I know that's like selfish, but like it's just the work it takes, and it's like
all I can tell you honestly, as someone who's been doing this a long time, is just get over it. It sounds harsh. I get it. You just have to get over it. That's a fair like anything else. I hate needles, but I had to get my blood work done every 3 months.
You get over it. What are you saying? But is it a steep learning curve?
You put the work in like anything else, and the thing is, it's about passion.
But you must be able to do this in your sleep now.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I love talking. First off, so.
But look at like how I would even say from 5 years ago how much your podcast has improved.
Yeah, equipment helps, number one. And I just think for me, it's more so the fact that I'm maturing, I'm evolving, I'm fluid as a person, not gender fluid. I'm talking about like fluid in terms of like. And I think what people like about my show now is that there's something for everybody. My last episode I did yesterday, Duke Bennett is on my feed. We talk all wrestling. That's it for an hour.
I can see why you wanted to move away from WWE with me
because SummerSlam's in 3 days. So we were previewing SummerSlam. Did a couple of topics. Before that, we were talking about basketball. Before that, we were talking about something else. Next week, I'm gonna have another political commentator on here next week too, and then after that, I'm gonna have a music guy on the show.
How many podcasts do you do a week?
2 or 3 a week. Of this show, 2 or 3 a week. That's the goal. The goal is at least 2 a week.
You took a break for a little bit, right?
I did for a week, but I had episodes published in that week though. I prepared. I had stuff. I recorded 2 episodes one night. I did a AFC NFC rankings of the quarterbacks entering the year, and what I did is I recorded 2 episodes with my friends, and then we use those as the days I'm off. Plug them in those days, so you wouldn't know it's gone.
That's awesome. How did you discover Matthew McQueenie, or how did you
Oh, Jeff Perlman. Because
Matthew McQueenie had Jeff Perlman on his podcast.
Correct. I'm a big Perlman guy, and Perlman on his website had posted a bunch of shows he had appeared on. And then he had posted Matt's show, the show he did with Matt, and for some reason I decided to check it out, and I was a fan. I was like, listen to Matt, and like, man, he sounds really good. And then I started following him on Twitter, and then he followed me, and then next engagement happens, and then next we're friends now.
I know, and it's funny how that works is because I remember Nuno Damasio.
Mm-hmm.
I literally picked up his book at Barnes and Noble, and I went straight to the Lawrence Taylor section on the Giants. And I loved the prose, and then I ended up picking up the book and started reading it. And next thing you know, I Facebook messaged Nuno, and I'm like, "Yo, I really enjoy this book. It's really great how you wrote it." And he was so gracious, and then we kept up conversation since then. And then he tells me, "Hey, I'm on this podcast," and I look up on Apple feeds, and I'm just like, look up his name, and I'm like, "You're on Matthew McKinney's podcast?" He's like, "How do you know him?" I'm like, "Dude, I don't know him. I found him through you," because he did. Sometimes it was still kind of new, the magic of Apple. And then next thing you know, like I'm liking it on Twitter, and I see you liking it.
And then we met around the same time too, also because
you saw that I was liking Matthew's stuff on Twitter too.
Right, because you had appeared on his podcast, and then I end up like liking the episode that you did with him, and I guess you somehow linked up with me, and then also we start talking, and like, oh shoot,
me and Matthew literally spoke the Friday after the 2016 election.
I remember that. That was a great episode that way. That was an excellent.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, and it's so hard to believe that's like 7 years ago.
I have to admit to it, and I think Matt gets a lot of credit for this too, especially that I'll admit, like a little bit of my shift in podcasting for me, where I went from like all sports to a little more on the personal side, to some degree. Matt had a little bit of something to do with that, not intentionally, just kind of like, because his show is similar to mine in a sense where it's whatever he cares about, and I started shifting to that direction too because I had gotten a little tired of do only sports, and I wanted to try some new things. I've always dabbled in pop culture and but it's always been sports 80% of the time. And what's that?
No, I'm just saying, like the people you surround yourself with influence you. You want to.
But at that time too, also I think also at that time also I was becoming a dad for the second time. So I was in my mid-30s, been going to my late 30s. So I started to feel like, okay, I was starting to naturally evolve with my thinking. So I wanted to use the podcast as a way to express that.
It's awesome. I know it's crazy.
I think Matt had a little bit of influence on that too as well.
I believe that.
Having someone else appear who's just doing something similar to me is like, okay, I can do this.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, you look at it, this whole podcast, you're giving an outline what we're going to discuss, and we haven't really touched on NBA basketball at all. We don't necessarily have to.
That's the thing.
It's off season,
I feel like when I do show with you, with Matt, with other folks like that, like I have like a docket of things I'm going to say, but it's just things I'm going to say and then just riff on the things because there's a lot of things to talk about.
There is a lot of things. Well, I feel like we kind of float nicely into it. I guess it was a little choppy at first, but
Real quick before we get this, we'll talk about NBA in a second. Before we get there, where are you on? So you think Trump's going to win the nomination regardless of what happens there?
I should have been prepared for this question. I'm not.
Call my paper then. Say yes.
I don't want to think that because I think your thoughts become manifestations of truth and reality. And I guess partially, if I'm being fully honest, why in some ways I'm unplugged from politics is because I have honestly found it discouraging having political discourse with people and stuff, and being around people that I fundamentally like and find really decent people who still like Trump. And I haven't been able to reconcile that.
Same
like, I don't really want to talk to them about politics at all. And maybe that's not good. I don't know. But it's kind of maybe when I'm plugged because it's like these people aren't going to change their mind no matter what. So I haven't even thought of that, and it's like I guess on some extent I understand because people find the issues they have. I feel like we talked about this last year too, and I feel like I need to watch it. The movie The Social Dilemma.
You mentioned on the show last week. I promised I was
Last
going to
year,
watch
you
that
mean?
movie. I never fucking did, and I need
Well,
to.
here we go. We're bringing it up again. It blew my mind because it really talks about how we literally are in our own silos where we get information that we want. There's no there's no uniform information anymore. And it reminds me, I was at my friend's house around Christmas time and he let me look through his YouTube. He is the biggest music junkie in the world and the biggest politics junkie. And
Mhm.
his YouTube feed was all music, all politics, and then like the biggest spills of 2023, like people falling through ice and stuff, like funny videos like that. If you look at my YouTube, you'll see a lot of basketball videos, inspirational videos,
Mhm.
more basketball videos, some music videos,
Yeah.
maybe some documentaries and stuff, like different kind of things. And it's just funny how your YouTube feeds filters things and everything.
Yeah.
So maybe I shouldn't be so harsh because people literally are just getting the information in the feedback loop they're looking for. You know, so it's like this logjam isn't broken. I want to believe and have faith that something is going to happen where Trump will not be the nominee.
Right.
I don't want it to be DeSantis either, but the thing is, everybody like Hillary Clinton set it up where, from what I heard, I don't know if this is the truth, but she set it up. We want Trump to be the nominee because we have the best chance of beating him. And then look what happened. He won. So I actually think I would rather have the most qualified, best candidate from both parties. And granted, maybe Biden is the most qualified, but I look at it as Biden. I feel like Biden can accomplish 70% of what the Democratic Party is seeking to accomplish.
Yeah.
And he doesn't besmirch America in any way.
Whether
You
or not
know?
you agree, whether or not you like Biden or not, you can't say he's not doing anything because, I mean, if you're on the other side of the aisle, you may not agree with the things he's doing, but you can't say he's not doing anything. He's doing things. You may not agree with the things he's doing, but he's still doing things.
It's true.
Two different things.
Um,
That's two different arguments there.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Chris Christie. I think I would rather him be the nominee because I think he's competent at least, and I think
Yeah,
I
and I
don't
think
I don't
also that,
think he would destroy the country. At least
yeah,
not as quickly as someone else.
again, good faith, or good faith people. That's
Well,
very
I
different.
mean, he was the governor next door in New Jersey, and
Yeah,
the
of course.
credit rating went way down in New Jersey. Like he was popular the first term, the second term he wasn't. But he's a smart guy. He's a smart operator. He's a good politician. You know what I mean? He knows how to talk to people. I don't think his goal is like divide and conquer. I think sometimes he's
And I also
selfish
think
and just
I
self-interest.
also think he's a guy that actually will look for bipartisanship also
Well,
in policy.
I mean, I don't think he'll ever be president. I mean, in a way,
No,
I guess he's sort of like your Northeast brand of like republicanism. That's probably not in step with what the Republican Party wants. I mean,
yeah,
someone was writing something. They were saying how if you look back on it, all these people supported George W. Bush during the Iraq War, and now they're all saying, "Oh, I never liked Bush. I never supported the war." The revisionist history. You're going to see the same thing that happens 10, 15 years from now.
yeah.
I am hopeful we're going to get through this phase. I really don't know. I mean, they say there's a race against the clock. I don't know if Trump could what's going to happen with him? Is he going to get arrested before the election, or is it going to be delayed? And this is why he's just hoping to win. So then he's insulated from all that and everything. I mean, it is kind of scary to think that the, I mean, you just make me think of the long term scenario of this country, how we're seeing the democratic foundation of this country kind of unraveling to some extent, where it's like we don't necessarily believe in democracy. I have a cousin that's of the belief that he says he thinks that we need autocracy because people now know that they can vote for what they want and they just want to vote for all the goodies and we can't afford it. And the truth
Right.
is that we are having rot and decay. And this is kind of why I like Ethan Strauss, because I think Ethan Strauss really likes to touch on these things about like what is happening with their society. Are we just like rotting and decaying from within? It's like it really is like a fundamental esoteric question. I think it's kind of interesting that you like talking about the election because I really feel like I haven't put as much thought into the election.
I
Um,
love this. I love this shit. Like sports almost in a sense. I love the discussion. This is why I listen to like all these shows because I like the data. And while I like again, good faith discussions. Like Breaking Points has a conservative and liberal, and
well,
they
what is
discuss it.
Sager saying about Trump? What does he think? He's not a fan of Trump, right?
I don't think he's a Trump guy. He's a conservative. He's a populist conservative. But I don't think he likes Trump necessarily.
But the thing is, what is he saying? What does he want to do? What is the result he wants? Because you have someone like Ben Shapiro that says he's not a Trump guy, and at the end of the day, when Trump's the guy, he becomes a Trump guy. You know what I mean?
That's not Saga at all. At all.
I know. I didn't
not
think
even
it
close.
was.
No, not at all.
But what's his vision?
And Crystal's very much, a liberal, but she can't stand Joe Biden. She's critical of Joe Biden. She's critical of Barack Obama. She's been critical of AOC because AOC now has become like an establishment, at least in their eyes, more establishment as she endorsed Biden already.
I feel like you can get in trouble for just being critical of anything. Like I remember when
critical, right?
I made a mild comment about Kamala Harris about how I wasn't necessarily happy with her being Biden's nominee, and everyone's like, "Don't say that. You're going to ruin it for Biden." And it's like, oh my god, like it's a sensitive world. And Twenji in her book Generations talking about that, about we're more sensitive about things all the time, like what we discuss.
It's annoying. Look, you're allowed to have your feelings, but please, like, have perspective on the things you're saying.
You sound like a true Gen Xer.
Oh well. Oh well. It is what age doesn't team, man.
I don't know. I'm hoping that something will happen. Maybe the Republican Party will splinter. Maybe it's the Republican Party that will have two parties instead of the Democratic Party splintering and stuff.
Where do you stand on where do you stand on ranked choice voting? Do you think that's the thing we should be going forward?
Doesn't California do that?
I'm not sure they do it in their state politics. I know I
think they do. I think ranked choice, where it's sort of like you have 8 candidates and then the top 2 candidates are the ones that run. Sometimes they have like 2 Democrats running for that one seat.
Right.
You're right, my dude. I think it's an interesting premise if it can gain traction. I worked back in 2005 on a system for public financing of elections, which was implemented in Connecticut. It was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to see public finance of elections. I think there's just so much money around that it's not realistic. So if ranked choice is something that can gain traction and it has like appeal, it would be neat. You're seeing so many weird things. Like, for example, I actually do think abortion is the game changer, though. Like in Ohio, they're trying to block the politicians that are trying to block the popular will because they want it as a ballot initiative on the ballot for Ohio to vote whether abortion should be legal or not. Which brings to it, I go back in and out of politics. Someone that I actually want to get back into is Matt Iglesias. And Ethan Shaw sometimes talks about him. I really liked the Weeds when it was Ezra Klein and Matt Iglesias. If they were back together talking all the time, I would be listening to them because I like their dynamic. But Matt Iglesias often would talk about how, like a state like Idaho, everybody votes Republican. Oh, I don't like that candidate. I can't vote for them. But the thing is, whenever you presented a ballot initiative where people could vote for the initiatives themselves, they would always vote for the more liberal issue. Like this country is
a mess.
I don't know. Well, it's like, how do you make sense of it? The founding fathers never had a vision of like how this country would be this big and all these things, all these elements. I think that you're making me want to research more of these things right now because I feel like our country, our government just does not seem nimble enough. Nimble, that's the word. Nimble enough.
Okay.
Nimble enough to navigate all these things, and it's sort of like we've been having this reckoning. And honestly, I mean, I guess part of it is I've been busy with life. I'm a dad that has a full-time job with 2 kids, different things, different interests. I find it very fascinating that I see that you've been put a lot of thought into this.
Yeah, because to be fair, I follow this stuff like daily. I just do. I love it. I find ways to stay engaged. I guess things I care about. You know what I mean? And look, Paul, like there'll be days I'll like fall out of it, like a politics. Okay, I'm done with this shit for a couple of days or whatever. But we are approaching the election.
What was one of the most or among the most influential books on politics you ever read?
Good question. I don't know any books that actually influenced me. Actually, any actual books. Honestly, I've always had a fascination with American history as a whole. Anyway, dating back as a child, so I think my love of history in itself was the bridge that got me into this stuff. As I got older.
Is there any documentaries or anything?
Oh God, there's tons. I couldn't tell you which one. Honestly,
Are you ever into Frontline? They always run things on YouTube all the time. You can watch.
Well, yeah, once in a while, yeah. PBS Frontline.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah,
It's kind of good
yeah.
stuff.
Not recently, but like there'll be moments where I'll go to like a binge. Well, I'll go through CNN's thing and some of the documentaries from yesteryear or Frontlines and PBS and then different all things. Oh my God, I'll tell you one documentary I need to sit and watch finally, and make time for is the Ken Burns Vietnam documentary
Why
he
that
released. Because I'm so fascinated with Vietnam.
one? Really?
As sad as it was, as sad as the situation was for this country, I'm so fascinated by the whole situation. And the story, I hear stories from people I talk to at my job and that have served there. It's
My dad's a Vietnam vet.
there you go. I'm just fascinated by it all.
You were talking about David Halberstam. You know David Halberstam. I haven't read it yet. It's on my to-read list. It's been there for a while. But he read like the most formative Vietnam book like ever, Best and Brightest.
He wrote a book on Vietnam.
David Halberstam is the man. He's like, I love that guy. I've read I'm when you mention him of the books you got that year, I'm under the impression you probably got Playing for Keeps, the Michael Jordan book.
Yeah.
Which I love. It's one of my favorite books. But another book that was great was Breaks of the Game, which talked about the year after the Portland Trailblazers won the title.
Right.
Yeah, he's like a literary hero of mine where he writes about politics and sports. You looking him up now?
No, I'm actually looking at the house of Ethan Strauss right now. I know who he is. I'm very much familiar with Dave Halberstam. I did not know he did other things outside of sports though. That I did not know.
Yeah,
that's amazing. That's amazing.
That guy's a literary giant. Who else is like that? Michael Lewis.
Yeah, I know who he is too.
Of course, Michael Lewis. He's done tremendous things. There's a good documentary you made me think of, and I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of it with you, but it's called Uncle Tom, and it talks about Black conservatives,
right?
And like how the African American population is not a monolith. You know this very well
because it isn't.
Are you familiar with Thomas Sowell?
Yes.
I am convinced that Dave Chappelle's Black White Supremacist spoof was on Thomas Sowell.
Interesting.
I don't have proof of it, but I think it is now. Like, I didn't know nearly as much when I saw it then, but given the fact that Dave Chappelle comes from a family of academics, his parents were professors, how he did the whole spoof, and he talks about all these books that, when he's doing the Black White Supremacist I wrote, because Thomas Sowell has written a ton of books, and the guy,
he's in his 90s now.
He's an old dude, but he is
very smart guy.
Often championed by conservatives, especially
absolutely
more intellectual conservatives.
Yeah, Larry Elder is one guy that constantly talks about Thomas Sowell. So does Ben Shapiro. Actually, is another one that
talks about him a lot. Would you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I debate a lot. I have a cousin I debate a lot with who shares a lot of the stuff, and he likes to hold the conservative end. I mean, in some ways he's trolling and stuff, but he's fascinated by the history and everything.
Is he conservative?
He's quite conservative, yes.
Okay.
He has a mission. He wants to convert everybody around him. So he says he actually tells me in his private life he doesn't really debate much. He's not on social media, any of those things. He keeps it mostly to himself. So that's why he wants to talk about with relatives and stuff. He might listen to this and be like, "What the fuck do you talk about me on the podcast?" He won't quite say it like that, but that would be his attitude.
It's crazy.
No,
I don't have a problem. Like I said, I was raised conservative. As I got older, I've become more, I guess left leaning. When I call it left leaning as I got older. It's funny. It works the other way when you're as a human being. You're more liberal as you get when you're younger.
Yeah, it's supposed to, but the world is kind of turned upside down.
A lot of it was at the church also too. But a lot of it was my background in the church, growing up as a kid. That's what
church did you go to?
I was raised Catholic until I was 12, and then I became a Christian, born again, and then I went to a Baptist church for a little while, and then the Assemblies of God, non-denominational church.
And what is your wife?
Same thing. She's Christian too. Oh well, she is Jewish, but she's a Reform.
And now you guys go to a non-denominational church?
We don't go to any church right now.
Well, you don't.
No.
Is there any desire to raise your kids in any kind of?
No, obviously we tell them about God and Christianity and all that, but we don't force it on their throat.
I respect that.
I think our attitude about religion, you want to call it now, is a little more on the fence on certain things. Like we believe in God, obviously, believe in Christ and all that. But I think once you get into the nuts and bolts of everything involved in the church now, we're kind of like on the fence with things. Like I
So
don't
your
know,
wife converted?
huh?
Your wife converted?
Yeah, she converted way before she met me.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I am serious.
That's interesting. Because I'm raised Jewish, and my children are biracial, just as yours are as well.
Yes, correct.
And mom's asking, "Hey, do you want to give your kids bat mitzvah?" And I'm like, I don't. I mean, if I can find a temple or a synagogue that I feel speaks to me, and I don't know if that really speaks to me. Like any house of worship per se. I believe in God, but it's like part of religion is more about the community you form, and it's like, what community do I want to be affiliated with? That's kind of like what I see, and that's like a debate I have. I don't want my kids to go through a bar mitzvah just to go through it. I want it to be like, I want to be moved by God, as corny as that sounds. And if I'm
Absolutely,
not, then it's like,
that'd be
well,
natural. In other words,
yeah, like I don't want it to feel forced. I know I keep on reference generations, but Gene Twenge is just talking about like the decline of like houses of worship and religion and everything. Like
exactly.
how, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I necessarily believe there's a rise in atheism, even though there might be, because I think that I think we know so little. I think being an atheist, this might be messed up to say, but I think being an atheist is a cop out.
Mm. Too easy.
Yeah, it's too easy. But then believing everything is God is too easy too.
No,
Like life
I
is,
my belief in God never changed. I just think the way the church has evolved in recent years. I didn't want to say I blame Trump for that either, but I will say that Donald Trump being his influence on things the last decade or so, it's definitely influenced a lot of the way I think about
well,
certain things.
a
And
lot of people on the Christian right do believe that even though Trump is a deeply flawed man, he's the agent of God where he brought
yeah,
about this
yeah,
change.
yeah, and the
Sure.
fountain of the earth, which is weird to me.
Well, it doesn't matter as long as someone's a vessel that's able to
Right.
fulfill on their issues. That's why Mike Pence is probably an interesting case study. I mean, you know what I mean? Apparently, he was incredibly conflicted. Don't buy the crap that he was steadfast about not overturning the election. Like he wanted, if it was easy and convenient for him, he would have done it.
There's no more pathetic human being in that party than that guy. Honestly, seriously,
I think there's other people in contention.
he's up there. He's definitely in the conversation though.
I mean,
Oh yeah, I Christian family
I think it's what's
Republican. Da, da,
reminding me
da.
of. I think there's so many people, and maybe I've turned into that, or just so turned off by politics. They don't want to pay attention. They just turn it off. Last year, you said, "I'm glad Trump disappeared because the noise level's finally down." You seem more engaged than you ever were.
Because he's back.
It's not
He's
exactly
back.
back. Some people say, I had a friend, the guy at the bagel shop I go to. He's like, "What's wrong with these people? If you want them to disappear, why do you keep on trying to arrest them?" Like I live in a diverse neighborhood in New Rochelle that has its
Yeah.
these people that support cops and firefighters. These people,
Of
blue
course.
collar ethos that like Trump. None of them are like, I'm going to slash your tires if you don't like Trump. You know what I mean? We're in
Right.
kind of liberal New York, but still, there are Trump people here.
All right. One last thing, we'll get you out of here. We went an hour and a half, but not talking about NBA offseason. Your Knicks. How you feeling about them?
I like Jalen Brunson. He just got married.
He did. Congrats, Mazel tov.
I will tell you that I am also I guess it's getting late. I'm tired. Julius Randle, who's a lot more injured than people realize.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I went to a Knicks game. I saw the Knicks play the Spurs
Okay.
in January. The Knicks won. Granted, the last call was probably a very favorable home call. They called a 5-second violation on the Spurs when All they needed was a 3-pointer to tie it, and they called it within 4 seconds. And they were overmatched. What's his name? The Maple Mamba was not playing in that game. That's what I remember. Brunson led all scorers, but Randall had the biggest impact offensively and defensively in that game. So I was actually later to the I like Brunson, but I was later to the train because I said I think Randall deserves more credit. People want to just trade away Randall. I don't. For what's his name? The guy on the T-Wolves? Are you kidding me?
Oh, Anthony Towns. Carly Towns.
It's not worth it. Towns is not a transcendent player. If anything, he's marginally better than Randall. Like, it's not worth it. And
I actually agree with you on that.
I don't mean to go into that, but I think Randall might have more heart than Towns. Towns might be more talented, but I think Randall has more heart.
I actually agree with you on that. But that being said, if you could trade Randall for another whale that put over the top, I would do it.
Who?
That's the question. Who's the whale?
I'm definitely not Damian Lillard. You know what I mean? Like Brunson. What Brunson did was it boxed the Knicks in because once they got Brunson, they would have gotten Mitchell if it was a fair deal. But it's sort of like you want two undersized guards in the backcourt. You can't get Damian Lillard. They actually kind of limit you in some ways.
You actually beat him in the playoffs. Go figure.
We already made the playoffs. We won a first round series. I mean, look at that.
Yeah, against
What do you think of how the Nuggets, the amount of the lack of respect they have for Melo, that they literally just gave away his number 15 jersey to Jokic, and now Melo is going to be completely forgotten. They can't retire Melo's jersey now.
To be honest, the way Melo wanted out of there, though, I mean, it's their right.
You think so?
Doesn't bother me at all.
If anything, they're blessed. He could have waited to free agent and just walked. They took half the Knicks roster.
That's true. But they got Jokic, and rest is history. One's the top 15, top 20 player all time. One other one is a guy that was pretty good for a couple of years and left in 2010, 2011.
What do you think of how the Bucks re-signed Middleton for all that money, though?
I think so. Here's I wrap up after this one. Here's the thing with the Bucks. I don't think no one's talking about. They won the title 2 years ago, right?
Yep.
Since winning the title 2 years ago, they have not defended that title fairly. In other words, last year, the year before this year,
2022, yes, Middleton was hurt.
Lost to Boston 7, right?
Well, the thing is, what people forget is they didn't care about home court. And that was the dumbest thing in the world, because if they had home court, I don't think Grant Williams would have went off at like 30 points in Milwaukee.
You're probably right. This year, and of course, better for my team, of course, they lose Miami in 5. Giannis misses the first 2.5 games, 2 3/4 games of the series.
Now, how did they blew big leads in games 4 and 5? This is how Budenholzer lost.
Maybe they still lose the series, but are we sure that Giannis and the Bucks don't win that series if he's healthy only throughout? I mean, he's only. I mean, look, he's only the best player in the NBA. No big deal.
Well, I think Jokic stole that mantle.
Well, Jokic is there now. Well, I mean, those are 2 guys, Jokic and Giannis. So I think Milwaukee, their assessment is that, okay, the problem was Budenholzer, the coach, which in a lot of ways was. Bring the band back another year or 2, and let's see what we can do with this core.
I honestly think they had no other outlets, and they just want to keep Giannis happy.
Yeah, that too. I think Giannis won his team back, and they're good enough. They've been a top 2-3 seed in the East every year. They won the title 2 years ago with this core. They're still fairly young enough. They got a 2-year window, probably 2-3 year window tops.
So who's your top 5
in the league? What in players?
Top 5 players. This
in order.
Try the best you can.
Okay, well, top 2 in order easy is Jokic and Giannis, 1 and 2.
3. Because I agree, Jokic is 1, Giannis is 2 to me. That could flip after this year, but the thing is, Jokic took the belt clearly.
3, I'll go Curry.
I think you don't think he got outplayed by the Lakers?
I think there's a lot of things that played in that situation. He played well in that series, though, but I think a lot of stuff that in that series, that team was not the same after that punch. I have to give Luka top 5 billing still, even though
I agree with you. I would almost think
put Luka 3.
I'm not going to argue with you with Steph Curry being 3, but I probably would have picked Luka 3.
No. And that was the thing. And that's why I paused on that. Luka was the only guy considered at 3. So 3 and 4, Luka, Steph, you can swap. I don't give a shit. 5 is hard because while this guy won the MVP last year, his performance in the playoffs was so bad, he can't be considered top 5 player in the league right now. So Embiid's not top 5.
So who's your 5th?
I pushed back. I pushed back against this last year in the playoffs, but I have a hard time leaving Tatum off the top 5 at this point.
I mean, he did outplay KD.
He sure did.
How about Booker though?
So Booker's the top 10, but he's not top 5 yet.
KD's I mean, you can almost. It's like an up for grabs. I mean, you like.
So I'm gonna release I'm gonna have my official list for this actually in October. When I do my buddies and I, my buddy Zach and I, and my buddy Zach, Chris and I.
Oh, so you might change some things.
Yeah, but that's the general idea of where I'm at in the top 5. So probably Tatum at 5, most likely. That's not locked in yet.
Would you put Jalen Brunson in the top 15?
No, top 20 probably.
It's incredible. I mean,
it's hard because you have better players than Brunson. It's weird because his value is so huge to that team though.
Is he more valuable than Donovan Mitchell?
I would say yes, because at least Cleveland the year before that got to the play-in without him. The Knicks were literally a sub-500 team without Jalen Brunson with the same exact roster.
Do you think?
I think Brunson's more important to his team than Mitchell is to his team. In other words,
I think I agree with you. Do you think Tibbs is the coach for the Knicks though?
I think it's a ceiling. I think after another year or two, there'll be some rumblings of him getting out there.
But the thing is, if you don't improve the Knicks' talent, it's not relevant.
Right. He's a great coach, but again, his style.
Somebody have said that about Budenholzer until he won a championship.
That too. Yeah. I think Tibbs has a ceiling in terms of
and in fairness to Budenholzer, during that playoff series, he did deal with a tragedy.
That's true.
And they picked a rookie coach. Why didn't they just hire Nick Nurse?
Maybe that's what Giannis wanted.
I mean, it's weird. The NBA is so we have to do another podcast to talk NBA because there's so much weird stuff with the NBA. This was a cheat. This was a cheat right here. That's why I almost didn't want to talk NBA because we talked about so much other stuff.
Yeah. One last thing in the NBA, Lillard, Heat is gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen at some point.
Ethan Strauss was talking about that. Was he talking about Freddie DeBoer? They want to set an example out of Lillard, really, of all people. The Blazers would love to get out of that contract. You know what I mean? This isn't like
I've been saying all year long. They want to trade him. It's all bullshit.
Like, why does Adam Silver want to use him as an example? The 6'1" guy.
Adam Silver is just trying to pander. That's all.
I don't know. I mean, some say that Adam Silver's fingerprints are on Mark Jackson getting fired.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Ethan Strauss wrote an interesting article about that too, saying different theories and stuff.
I'll double check it out.
Do you think Doris Burke is going to be good in that 3-man booth?
Oh yeah, awesome.
You're a big fan of Burke. I feel like Burke.
I love her. I love her. I love Doris Burke.
Some people don't like Burke.
No, they're idiots.
Yeah. And you think Doc Rivers is going to do good? I think Doc Rivers will do well, actually.
Yeah, he'll be fine because he's done it before. And I remember when we did an NBC.
He only did for a year, but still, he just
on ABC. He was fine.
But he's friends with everyone in the league too. It seems like he's going to get so much information.
Cool, even better.
Some people say Colin Cowherd always said Doc Rivers kind of like Joe Torre.
True. I will say though, the Van Gundy, Mark Jackson group, not so much Breen, but the other two guys, kind of worn off. Got a little tired of them. A little tired of
Did
Gundy.
You? Some say that Jackson are tired of. No one was tired of Van Gundy.
Yeah, a little tired of him. I mean,
I'm a fan of Colin Cowherd. I like Colin.
So am I.
Discuss this. Colin Cowherd. Although I haven't listened to his volume podcast as much, I don't think he was pulling some great guests before, and I feel like now he always has Nick Wright on all the time.
I love Nick Wright, man. I love Nick Wright.
Do you?
Love Nick Wright. Love Nick Wright. Yes.
I thought Dan Labitard is your guy. How do you have time for all this content? You follow sports so closely, yet you seem like you follow politics almost as closely.
That's what YouTube's for. You bite-sized stuff. Bite-size.
That's incredible, man. How you're able to complete what you do. You're like the podcast renaissance man.
I just headphones a lot in the house. When I go work out, I'll go do exercise. I put on headphones. You got to find ways, man. If you like content. Anyway, this is a great podcast, man.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on. We got to do it again in less than a year. Yes,
Well,
that'd be great.
so obviously we know that our time is every August we get August every year.
Now you
kinda
want to do it?
No. I'm not saying that's not on purpose for the record. We'll do it sooner than that, definitely. Sooner than that. Although I will say the fall is my busiest time of the year because of football. Football, basketball comes back, baseball playoffs.
Have you watched the Netflix documentary on Mahomes and them?
I'm almost done. I'm on episode 7.
The thing is, I'm halfway through episode 2, and it's a lot more Mahomes now. But I don't know if I want to watch.
No, keep watching it. It's good. There's a lot of cousins in there.
It doesn't hold up to the same as the Last Dance documentary, though, does it?
No. Which, by the way, I rewatched recently again.
How many times have you watched it?
Twice. When it
I
came
think I
on,
watched it 3 times. I got a buddy that's watched it 5 times.
When it came on the first time in live, I watched it, and then I didn't watch it again until like a month ago.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That must have been awesome.
Yeah, it felt fresh.
Yeah, it's almost like you
fresh.
redo it and stuff. You
Yeah,
know?
I may do an episode on my basketball retro podcast on the entire series.
I got to hear that, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. So, anyway,
awesome.
Good job, man, as always. Anyone to plug before we get out of here?
There's going to be new content out on Josh Off the Press. I know I've been on a little bit sabbatical with the writing, but there'll be stuff on. Maybe some stuff from this podcast was teasing out, some things that we're discussing on there. You know, I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. It's crazy to think that it's been a year. I'll have to look at
it was better than last year when it took 3 years to come on the show. Remember? Last year
You're the man.
Yeah. So good job, Josh.
Thanks. You too.